What if I told you that deep in West Africa there was a kingdom whose city walls were 4 times longer than the Great Wall of China? A kingdom whose artists cast metal sculptures so lifelike, so breathtaking, that when Europeans first saw them, they refused to believe they were made by Africans. This is the story of the Yoruba people and the mighty kingdom of Benin. It's a story that begins with gods creating the world from a handful of sand and leads to a powerful empire ruled by an Oba, a king descended from those very gods. We'll journey back to the sacred city of Ile-Ife, explore the grand palaces of Benin City, and meet legendary figures like Iwari the Great and the warrior queen Idia. But this is also a story of conquest, of a brutal clash with the British Empire that saw a kingdom burned, a king exiled, and thousands of priceless treasures stolen. Join us as we uncover the history, the art, and the enduring legacy of Benin and ask the question, who owns history? The History of the World podcast, written and presented by Chris Hasler.
And we're live from the living room as Doug eyes up the matchday spread. He's reaching for the buffalo wing. Perfect! Hang on, what's this? Oh, he's gone for a can of Pepsi too! Incredible! What a finish! Sensational combination! Look at the delight on his face. There's no doubt about it. It just tastes better. Match days deserve Pepsi. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a pack of Pepsi Zero Sugar for today's match. It's poetry in motion.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Volume 4, The Medieval World. Episode 94, Ifẹ and Benin. Our episode this time takes us to the area of Africa centred on southwest Nigeria, a home to an ancient ethnic culture called the Yoruba people. The Yoruba can trace their origins back possibly up to 3,000 years, and it is likely they developed from earlier populations already inhabiting the region rather than arriving through mass migration. However, another school of thought suggests that they displaced an earlier culture often identified as the Igbo people. There is certainly archaeological evidence to indicate that people were settling the area as far back as the first millennium BCE. Unsurprisingly, the Yoruba maintain their own rich oral tradition recounting their mythological origins. The original story of the Yoruba begins with Olorun, a supreme deity who transcends all others and is credited as the creator of the universe. Olorun, also known by names such as Oludumare, created Ashe, the vital life force that drives all within the universe and is the cause of all happenings. Olorun also created the extensive pantheon of Yoruba deities representing the many aspects of existence. These deities, collectively known as the Orishas, are believed by the Yoruba to have once been living humans who were deified upon their death, transitioning into ancestral spirits. Due to the nature of oral history transmitted over many centuries, there are varied interpretations of the deities' stories and their interactions. This is a global phenomenon, observable from earliest Fertile Crescent traditions that evolved into Judaism to oral traditions across the Americas. Yoruba culture exhibits the same diversity, meaning stories often differ in detail depending on who one asks. For instance, the deity Obatala was reportedly charged with creating the world, but failed in this duty due to intoxication. Another deity, Oduduwa, successfully created land on earth in his stead. Some traditions depict Obatala and Oduduwa as rivals, while others describe Oduduwa as Obatala's wife. Oduduwa planted a palm nut that grew into a tree with 16 branches. Each branch represented a clan, forming the clans of the city of Ile-Ife, the cradle of the Yoruba civilization and their spiritual home. Ile-Ife is believed to have been established during the first millennium BCE, with definitive archaeological proof dating to the first millennium CE. We know very little about the historical non-legendary beginnings of the city. It is believed that the settlement grew gradually from humble beginnings, perhaps a handful of small clusters of houses initially scattered around the landscape 2,500 to 3,000 years ago. These communities were likely somewhat agricultural, supported by evidence of settlements. There is no reason to doubt the existence of early trade networks. Although Islamic trade brought glass beads to West Africa by the early 2nd millennium, there is evidence of such beads dating back 1.5 millenniums earlier. Historians posit that these small settlements coalesced into a more cohesive community towards the end of the first millennium, marking the beginnings of a recognisable town or city which would evolve into Ile-Ife. Iron smelting also appears to have existed during this period, as furnaces, slag and iron ore fragments have been found dating back to this time. These furnaces would have had to achieve very high temperatures to smelt iron, and as with other similarly disparate regions worldwide, it is thought-provoking to consider that these metallurgical skills arose independently among the Yoruba. It is not clear exactly when centralised rulership was established, but a degree of political centralisation can be inferred as the settlement grew. The construction of city walls from the 10th century supports the view of a centralised society requiring defensive mechanisms. The 11th century heralded a golden age for Ile-Ife. The ruling elite governed the city, headed by the Oni of Ife. The title Oni of Ife remains the traditional designation for the ruler of Ile-Ife and the spiritual leader of the Yoruba people, and continues to this day. The current Oni of Ife, Adeyeye Enitan Ogunwusi, was born in the city in 1974. Each Oni claims descent from the first and original Oni, Oduduwa, the creator of land and the city, representing an unbroken royal dynasty stretching back to the mythological origins of life on Earth. It should be noted that other Yoruba cultures, such as those of the Oyo, maintain alternative interpretations of their mythology. At the centre of the early city stood the Oni's palace known as the Afin. around which the rest of the city was built. Roads extended outward from the Afin, some aligned with cardinal directions, an indication of cosmological understanding, with each road associated with an orisha, the Yoruba word for deity. The construction period has been distinguished as the pavement era. The Yoruba of Ifẹ specialised in producing terracotta, using terracotta bricks to fashion attractive yet durable courtyards, paths and walkways within sacred precincts and royal areas. The addition of pottery sherds to the terracotta enhanced both the aesthetic appeal and strength. The only female Oni of Ifẹ, Queen Oluo, who reigned just before the pavement era, is said to have ordered the construction of these remarkable pavements owing to her dislike of muddy conditions which could ruin her royal robes.
Production.
The Ifẹ people specialised in working with terracotta, a type of clay rich in iron oxide that lends it its characteristic reddish hue. This clay was fired at comparatively low temperatures relative to other ceramic techniques. The primary motivation behind the use of terracotta was the creation of sculptures, most notably human figures that may have represented deified ancestors or the elite rulers of the city. Many terracotta figurines appear to have been designed as grave goods, intended to accompany the deceased into the afterlife. Interestingly, some sculptures depict disease or physical deformity in intricate detail, which has fascinated scholars studying the culture. This raises the intriguing possibility that such pieces were created for use in ceremonial healing rituals or spiritual practices. The fact that many excavated sculptures originate from specific locations rather than being dispersed throughout the city further supports the notion that they served ritual or ceremonial rather than purely personal purposes. Over time, the artisans of Ifẹ transitioned from terracotta to bronze for their sculptures. The procurement of metallic materials such as copper, tin and zinc necessary for bronze production indicates the presence of extensive trans-Saharan trade connections. Although the Ifẹ sculptures worked with pure copper, their bronze could more accurately be described as brass, owing to alloy composition rather than traditional bronze. If the Ifẹ makers faced limitations in the kiln temperatures they could achieve compared to other contemporary cultures globally, this would explain their preference for terracotta and brass rather than hard clay and true bronze. True bronze is better suited to creating sharp details when using the lost wax technique, but brass melts at a lower temperature, making it easier to work with. The Ifẹ employed the lost wax casting method, a technique introduced in a previous episode on the origins of metallurgy in the prehistoric world. The method has been practiced in various parts of the world for over 6,000 years. To create a sculpture, they would first apply beeswax onto a clay core, then model fine details into the wax to form the desired shape. A soft layer of clay would then be coated over the wax object, followed by progressively coarser outer layers. The whole composite was then fired, hardening the clay and melting away the wax, leaving a ceramic mould. Molten metal could then be poured into this hollow to create the metal sculpture when cooled and solidified. The choice of high quality clay and the particular alloys used resulted in some of the finest lost wax objects ever produced, distinguished by their remarkable intricacy and realism. Despite the occasional misnomer, these works are universally referred to as the Ifẹ bronzes, which went on to influence subsequent cultures and their artistic creations. The human head was the most popular subject for sculptors. When Europeans first encountered these highly detailed heads, arrogance led them to conclude that the artwork must have been crafted by peoples outside the Yoruba cultural sphere. Today, we know this assumption to be erroneous. In addition to terracotta and bronze, the Ifẹ people also produced sculptures in stone, particularly limestone, quartz and schist. Among their monumental works is a 5.5 metre tall granite obelisk dating back over 700 years, erected within the city and likely commemorating the death of the legendary Yoruba prince Oromiyan. The monument is called the Staff of Oromiyan, or in the local language Oppa Oromiyan, and is revered as a sacred object.
Politics.
As we have discovered, the city of Ifẹ was governed by the spiritual leader of the Yoruba people, the Oni of Ifẹ. The Oni ruled over his kingdom with the assistance of a council composed of chiefs and priests. This council was responsible for overseeing the day-to-day governance of various societal aspects, such as maintaining law and order and supervising spiritual and religious observances. The chiefs and priests who made up this council could either be appointed by the Oni or inherit their positions through lineage. Some of these chiefs took on the role of governors presiding over particular cults or specialised groups within the city. Looking back into Yoruba oral traditions, there is a revered figure known as Prince Oromiyan, believed to be a son of Oduduwa, the deity credited with creating the land on earth and founding the city of Ifẹ. It is said that Oromiyan took part in an important meeting called the Conference at Ita Ijeru, and this conference was convened to resolve unrest stemming from the conflict between Oduduwa and Obitala, an earlier topic discussed in this episode. At this conference, Oromiyan was joined by other descendants of Oduduwa, and it was agreed that these descendants would disperse and establish new Yoruba kingdoms, including the notable realms of Benin, Ketu, Ijebu, and Oyo. It is important to emphasize that there is no firm historical evidence to corroborate the occurrence of the conference at Ita Ijeru. This event exists primarily within the rich tapestry of oral tradition. Often, historical evidence is at odds with oral history, making it notoriously difficult to ascertain precise origins of these kingdoms. In the absence of written records, archaeology provides our principal means of investigation. Archaeological findings confirm the emergence of these kingdoms, but we cannot determine whether their foundation was simultaneous, as the oral myth suggests. If the conference is considered a retrospective oral creation, it can be understood as a symbolic narrative designed to confirm the shared cultural origins of the ancient polities along the Bight of Benin that prospered in the second millennium. While Ile-Ife and later polities such as Ketu, Ijebu and Oyo were Yoruba in both ethnicity and language, the Kingdom of Benin was distinctly different. The Benin Kingdom was predominantly inhabited by the Edo people, who spoke the Edo language. This distinction fuels debate over the suggestion that the Kingdom of Benin's founding originated from the Yoruba conference at Ita Ijeru. Edo historians maintain that the Benin Kingdom's origins are firmly rooted in Edo culture, not that of the Yoruba, and therefore may object to the notion that their cultural heritage has been co-opted by Yoruba myth. From a Yoruba perspective, it is said that the Prince Oromiyan was invited by the elders of the Benin Kingdom to assume rulership after the Ogiso dynasty, a line of semi-legendary kings ruling until approximately the 13th century, fell out of favour. According to this tradition, Oramian fathered a son with a Benin woman, and their son would become Eweka the first Oba of Benin. The term Oba, used by both the Edo and Yoruba peoples, means monarch or ruler. Just as the title Oni of Ifẹ survives today, so does the title of Oba of Benin. The current Oba is Eheneden Erediawa, styled as Oba Eware II, the 40th Oba of Benin, born in 1953. It is critical to distinguish that the historic Kingdom of Benin is culturally and geographically separate from the modern Republic of Benin. The latter, originally called Dahomey, is located to the west of Nigeria, whereas the Kingdom of Benin, our episode's focus, lies in southern Nigeria. Accordingly, the contemporary Oba of Benin functions more as a representative of Edo culture in the modern context rather than as a political sovereign.
Benin City.
Before the arrival of the Yoruba prince Oramian, the Edo people, the inhabitants of the region, referred to their land as Igodo Migodo. They honoured Osanobua, their almighty god, who is believed to have sent 4 powerful forces to create the lands of the earth. According to tradition, the youngest of these 4 forces carried a snail's shell filled with sand. When the shell was turned over and emptied, it created the land that would eventually become the Kingdom of Benin, also known as Edo. This youngest force, often described as one of the sons of Osanobua, was granted the title King of Benin and became the progenitor of the Ogiso dynasty. Archaeological evidence dates the construction of the city of Edo, which we today refer to as Benin City, to approximately the 9th century. Over the centuries since European colonisation, many of the famous Benin bronzes have been taken by Europeans. More recently, a growing crisis of conscience among Europeans combined with assertive demands from African nations has led to efforts to repatriate those lost artefacts to Africa. It has been deemed appropriate for European institutions to collaborate by sharing knowledge and technology, aiding African nations in preserving their historical heritage. A notable example of this is the Education Project, formally launched in 2022 as a partnership between the Museum of West African Art and the German Archaeological Institute. This initiative allows Nigerian archaeologists to benefit from advanced German techniques to digitally map and document Benin City's ancient earthworks, providing us with a richer understanding of the lives of these early Edo people. Among the most astounding discoveries are some of the largest man-made earthworks in the world, referred to as the Iya system, which encircles Benin City. This extensive system stretches over 16,000 kilometres, suggested to surpass the length of the Great Wall of China, demonstrating the immense scale of these constructions. These earthworks were built over centuries, and as the city flourished, Benin gradually developed into a metropolis centred on a grand ceremonial complex. It is believed that by the end of the 12th century, the first Oba of Benin, Eweka I, was born. While Prince Oramian's intervention is traditionally seen as marking the end of the Ogiso monarchy, it was his son by an Edo woman called Erinwinde who became Benin's first official Oba. The fourth Oba, Owedo, possibly reigning from around 1255, is credited with the construction of the Oba's Palace in Benin City, a palace that stood until the British invasion of 1897. That palace was subsequently rebuilt, and today an Oba's palace exists as the official residence of the current Oba. The power of the Oba and the prominence of Benin City contributed to the formation of a city-state in which the city exercised authority over surrounding villages, thereby strengthening the polity overall. The Oba was perceived not just as a political ruler, but as a spiritual leader, reinforcing his legitimate authority over his people. Within the city, specialised crafts thrived, including ivory casting and the famous creation of the Benin bronzes, made using the lost wax casting technique that we have previously explored.
Eware the Great.
A pivotal moment in the history of the Kingdom of Benin occurred in the year 1440, when a bitter civil war engulfed the realm. Several years prior, during the 14th century, the 8th Oba of Benin, known as Ohen, had significantly expanded the geographical reach of the Edo people's influence. However, following Oba Ohen's death, a succession crisis erupted amongst his sons. One son, Orobiru, exiled two of his brothers, Ogun and Irugi. Ogun's return to Benin is shrouded in legendary accounts. It is said that he journeyed nomadically across the land, encountering numerous mystical experiences, including guidance from the sacred Uloko tree, which instructed him to return and claim the throne of Benin. Upon his return, Ogun led a dramatic overthrow of the ruling brother who governed amid widespread famine and discontent. The event marked the Civil War of 1440. Ogun was proclaimed the new Oba under the regnal name Eware Ogidigan, better known as Eware the Great. His reign is widely regarded as transformative in Benin's history. Prior to Oba Eware's ascent, the appointment of the Oba was controlled by a council of chiefs known as the Uzama. Eware sought to curtail their authority and consolidated power under his own rule. He personally led military campaigns, conquering neighbouring towns and cities, thereby expanding the kingdom into one of the most significant in West Africa. Many of the remarkable earthworks that surround Benin City are believed to have originated during Eware's reign, demonstrating his commitment to fortification and urban planning. Eware also oversaw substantial improvements in bronze casting, a key component of Benin's cultural legacy. These Benin bronzes have since become prized possessions for European nations such as Germany and the United Kingdom, countries now facing increasing pressure to repatriate these culturally important artifacts. To ensure the quality and consistency of Benin's artistic output, Eware established guilds responsible for producing the revered bronzes alongside exquisite ivory and wood carvings. His reforms extended to the military and political systems, laying the foundation for Benin to adapt and thrive amid the evolving geopolitical landscape, particularly as Portuguese explorers made contact. In 1472, Portuguese explorers led by Rui de Sequeira reached the waters of the Bight of Benin. This period was significant not only because it opened direct European-African contact, but also due to its timing, roughly 20 years after the fall of Constantinople to the Ottomans, which complicated European trade routes to India and the Far East via the Mediterranean, and about 20 years prior to Columbus's discovery of the Americas. These exploratory voyages were crucial in reshaping global interactions and brought the Portuguese to advanced societies like Benin and the successor states of Great Zimbabwe. Upon encountering Benin City, the Portuguese observed a sophisticated society with organised governance, paved streets and a thriving economy, one of the most well-structured kingdoms encountered by Europeans in Africa. However, shortly after their arrival in 1473, Oba Ewari the Great passed away peacefully. His subsequent funeral rites reinforced his elevated divine status within Benin's cultural memory. Ewari was succeeded successively by his 3 sons. His first son, Essi, died from a poisoned arrow during his coronation. Olua succeeded Essi, but ruled a troubled kingdom fraught with internal difficulties until his death in 1480. This was followed by a 3-year interregnum before his third son ascended to the throne as Oba Ozolua.
After European contact.
The relationship between the Portuguese and the Kingdom of Benin remained amicable throughout the reign of Oba Ozolua. Trade between the two kingdoms flourished, with African exports such as black pepper, ivory and slaves exchanged in return for European goods including coral beads and cloth. Notably, Benin's primary interest lay in acquiring European firearms, technology that would provide a decisive advantage over rival kingdoms in the region. It is important to clarify that during this period, the transatlantic slave trade had not yet fully emerged. Slaves were sold to any buyers who could utilise them, whether that be urban slave owners in Portugal, sugar plantation owners on the island of Madeira, or even other African societies involved in gold trading. Oba Ozolua was determined to continue his father Oba Ewari the Great's ambitions, furthering the expansion and influence of the Kingdom of Benin. Legend tells that he witnessed a woman performing a ritual dance and took her as one of his wives. She came to be known as Queen Idia. Together they had a son named Esigia. Esigia was not Ozolua's only son, and upon Oba Ozolua's death in 1514, a fierce succession dispute erupted between Esigia and his half-brother Ahuaran. Defying the norms of the time, Queen Idia not only lent her support to her son, but also led an army on his behalf. Women customarily did not participate in warfare, yet Queen Idia became known among her people as the only woman to take up arms. Many historians credit her invaluable military counsel as a decisive factor in her son's ultimate victory. In recognition of her contributions, the newly crowned Oba Esigia bestowed upon Queen Idia the political title Iyoba, meaning Queen Mother, a title that carries immense prestige. She stands as one of the most notable women in African history. Ivory masks commissioned in her honour now reside in museums in London, New York and Stuttgart, and continue to spark debates over whether they should be returned to Nigeria.
Decline and fall.
The Kingdom of Benin did participate in the Atlantic slave trade. However, its rulers preferred to focus on trading ivory and pepper. This created an opportunity for other West African states to exploit the growing demand for slaves and consequently to surpass Benin in both wealth and power. As European powers sought more cooperative trading partners, Benin found itself increasingly marginalised. As its influence waned, vassal states began to withdraw their allegiance, precipitating a gradual but steady decline throughout the 17th and 18th centuries. The confidence of European merchants in Benin dwindled, leading to economic downturn. Predictably, this instability triggered domestic unrest as rival factions within the kingdom challenged the ruling elite's authority. By the 19th century, British interest in Benin intensified, especially regarding the lucrative trade in ivory and palm oil, reflecting the abolition of the slave trade by Britain in 1807. trade negotiations between Benin and the United Kingdom were fraught with tension. While the British pressed for open trade policies, the Benin leadership sought to impose restrictions to protect their sovereignty and economic interests. In retrospect, such caution seems understandable. Although open trade might have boosted Benin's economy, the kingdom risked exploitation by a considerably more powerful partner if it failed to defend its position. British ambitions eventually outpaced their patience with Benin. The final decades of the 19th century saw mounting pressure, culminating in the establishment of the Oil Rivers Protectorate in 1884, designed to control the palm oil trade of the Niger Delta. When Oba of Voronwen ascended the throne in 1888, he faced relentless pressure to capitulate to British demands. However, he resisted firmly, refusing to submit to terms imposed by the colonial power. What followed is a subject of historical debate and intrigue. The British organised an expedition of approximately 250 individuals to Benin in January 1897, despite warnings not to visit during a period of sacred rituals. Reports suggested that the expedition concealed weapons, perhaps anticipating conflict. Benin's soldiers ambushed the expedition, killing all but 2 members, notably including the acting consul general of the Niger Coast Protectorate, James Robert Phillips. This incident provided the British with the pretext they could not ignore. In response, a punitive military expedition was launched. The British seized control of Benin City and deposed Oba of Voronwen. The Kingdom of Benin was subsumed into what would become British colonial Nigeria, remaining a colony until the Federation of Nigeria declared independence in 1960. Following the British conquest, between 3,000 and 5,000 pieces of art of immense cultural importance were seized from the royal palace. Today, Nigeria's National Commission for Museums and Monuments endeavours to negotiate the repatriation of these artefacts. The protest remains fraught, as many current holders, some having purchased these pieces in good faith, are reluctant to part with them without compensation, ensuring ongoing negotiations and disputes will likely continue for some time.
This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of the History of the World podcast about the Kingdom of Benin and its predecessor, the city of Ife. What a fascinating story, and it's a pleasure once again to be able to broadcast medieval episodes about the continent of Africa, particularly sub-Saharan Africa. Although I have to be honest, I do think maybe some of my pronunciations would have been a little bit amateurish, and I apologise if I've offended any Yoruba or Edo-speaking people, if I have made a mess of your language. I really do apologise, but nonetheless, I didn't want that to prevent me from trying my best to present you with a fascinating episode about your culture. Now, If you enjoy the podcast, if you appreciate the work, and you'd like to support it, if you'd like to support me in producing more and more episodes in the future, then do please visit our website, historyoftheworldpodcast.com, where you can visit many pages related and dedicated to the podcast. And you can also click on the Patreon link and sign up to make a monthly contribution. You'll become a lifelong member of the History of the World podcast Illuminati, and you'll qualify for gifts and rewards. Go and check it out, see what we can do for you. Now, you can follow the podcast on social media. We're on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Tumblr, Threads, and Mastodon. And I'm always very, very keen to hear from you, the listener. What was your opinion about the episode, and what do you think about the podcast in general? Do please drop me a line at historyoftheworldpodcast@mail.com, and your feedback will be discussed during our History of the World podcast debrief episodes. Next time, we'll be exploring the Mali Empire, and that will be the final regular episode of Season 4 of Volume 4, The Medieval World. We finally got there. It was a long, hard slog, but we made it. And after that, there'll be some summary episodes, and then that will be it. It will be move on and focus on Volume 5. So that's quite exciting. So we're almost there. We almost made it. But in the meantime, look out for History of the World podcast debrief episodes. And until next time, thanks very much for all your support. And don't forget, as ever, be good.
The History of the World podcast, written and presented by Chris Hasler. Please consider making a financial contribution by going to the historyoftheworldpodcast.com website and clicking on the Patreon link. Email the show at historyoftheworldpodcast@mail.com. And don't forget to join our social media at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Tumblr. See you next time.